Welcome everybody to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com. We're here for a session all about looking at the creation of Dynamics NAV RDLC Invoice reports. I'm joined today by three panelists. We have Petros Putenas, Igne Putene, and Martin are here to look at this challenge and how to solve it. I want to remind everyone that we do welcome questions. You can enter yours anytime in the Q&A block that you should see to the right of the main presentation window. A few people have already started adding some comments and questions there. And we'll be making time for those at the end. So without further delay, I'm going to hand things off to Petros to get us started.
Thanks, Jason, and hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the presentation of the revolutionary report building tool, Simplanova Report Wizard. My name is Petros, and before presenting the tool, I would like to introduce you to the main features of Simplanova Report Wizard. The Wizard is a powerful tool working from your NAV application and allowing you to build NAV RDLC reports in 4 easy steps. The tool uses the best workflow features from all Dynamics NAV platforms and thus makes the NAV reporting process easier so that even your consultants or the end users could again build the reports themselves. When creating this tool, our goal was to minimize the time needed for learning and also to minimize the time needed for building the reports. So our main principles were easy to learn and quick to achieve the result. We will observe the simplicity in a few moments when Igne will be showing how to build an invoice report in just 15 minutes. So most of the work on the report is done in just one RTC page, so you do not have to open an external software while using it. The approach is actually quite similar to the classic report approach, but at the same time maintaining all the RDLC functionality. You also have an instant preview option of all the changes that you make. You're able to edit the code as you would normally do in Visual Studio. Also, since the Wizard gives you native NAV format, RDLC, there are no yearly license fees or external software needed for running the reports for your customers. We have run internal tests which have shown that due to the simplified process of creating the reports, it could save you up to 80% of the time while comparing to the standard process. All attendees that are here today can apply for a free test license by writing to sales@simplanova.com. And here I would like to ask the audience, first of all, here I will make a stop and I'll give a word to Igne, but before that, first of all, is there anyone alive here?
And please do use the chat if you want to respond back to us or the Q&A.
Okay, I can't. And now I'd like to ask, what is the most difficult type of report that you create? Thanks for your answers. I see that there's some people live here. So my question would be, what would be the most difficult type of report? Okay, document reports. Renee says. Okay. I can see some answers here, and well, I can only agree that documents are the most difficult reports with you here. And I would like to give a word to Simplanova product manager Igne, who will be showing you how to build a NAV RDLC invoice using Simplanova Report Wizard.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar on Simplanova Report Wizard, which simplifies building reports in NAV by producing normal report objects with RDLC layout. So today I'm going to show you how you can use the Simplanova Report Wizard to build a document report, a invoice like the one that is shown on my screen right now. And without further ado, we can go to the database, where I have the Simplanova Report Wizard already set up. So first of all, I'll create a totally new object. I'll give it an ID. and I'll name it SRW Demo Webinar. I'll leave the rest of the settings as default and set the preview mode to print layout. So next step is actually to build the data set, and this bit hasn't changed much from what you've got in the standard NAV report designer. So I'll add my company information first and all the fields that I need for it. So this could be my company name, address, city, and postcode and logo. All right, and then I'll add another data item. This will be my sales invoice header. See, I can actually even use asterisks to find the tables quicker, or I can use the list as well. And now I'll locate the fields that I need on my invoice header. I'll take the document number first, and I'll also need a few bill to fields. I can take my customer name, address, city, and postcode. I will also need a couple of labels. I'll add those. So the first one for invoice number, and another one for the customer. Now moving to the layout section, I will start from the left side where my customer information and document number will be shown. So the layout development is quite different from what you've got in the standard NAV tools. We've actually taken the idea from the page designer in NAV, and it's a declarative way of building the visual side of the report. So what I'll do is I'll select the data item that I need with all the fields and click Add Layout. This builds a section in the layout, and the sections are actually very similar to what you had in the classic reports. So you can have different types of sections like headers, bodies, and footers, and report headers and report footers, as well as group headers and group footers if I were to define the group field for this. So I'll place this on the report header. And I'll open the preview mode. The preview window is actually an add-in we've developed, so you can see instantly all the updates you do on a report. Now if I go back to the original document that we are building, you can see that the invoice number and customer labels are on the left and information is on the right. So in order to achieve this, I'll create two groups. One will say my captions, and I'll indent them under the captions group. And the other one will be my values, and I'll indent all the text boxes under the values group. And now I want all of those text boxes to go from top to bottom vertically instead of being shown as columns, so I'll change this layout to rows instead. And I'll change the width of the section to 6 centimeters, and I'll change all the text boxes to be 3 centimeters wide. In order to do that, I'll enter the width by selecting all the different elements and click apply the 3 centimeters to all of these text boxes and groups. You actually can, I am using centimeters at the moment, but you can actually use inches as well. It can be defined either on the report itself using the unit of measure setting, or on the setup to choose the default unit of measure for the report. Now another thing that I want to change is to make these labels bold, so I'll do that. And now looks pretty good, so we can move on to the right side of the report. So now I'll select my company information, date item, and all the items inside of it, and do the same thing, add to layout. This builds yet another section, and I'll place it on the report header as well. Now this one I want to see in rows rather than columns as well. And I'll make all these elements 6 centimeters wide by selecting all of them and entering width, and I'll click apply. Now I also want to move this section to the right of the screen. So I'll go to my company information section and change the float parameter to right. Now the last bit for this section is I want to move the picture, my company logo, at the very top, and to make it slightly taller. Now this looks good, and I'll make the section 6 or maybe 5 centimeters high, so there's a little bit of space before the lines of the document start. Okay, so now I can move on to the document lines. I'll go back to the data set, create yet another table. This will be my sales invoice line, and I want to link it to the parent date item by entering the document number and number as the fields to be linked. And now add the fields that I need. I think everyone will agree that the minimum fields would be the type, number, description, unit of measure, quantity, unit price, and amount. This looks good. And now I also want the captions, so I'll just select all of these fields and click Add Caption. And it builds my captions for all of these fields. And I know that unit of measure is a bit too long of a caption for the report, so I'll change it to a label instead and type in UOM. Now for the next step, I want to build my header section with all the captions, so I'll select my date item again and all the caption fields, go down to the layout, and click Add to Layout. And set section type to header. And UOM should be bold as well as the rest of the captions. This looks good. Now we can go back to the data set again, and I will select the data item once more and all the fields. I'll click Add Layout, and this builds my body section, and I'll do that one more time to build my footer section as well. But we know that we want to show only the totals in the footer section, so I'll just remove all the fields that we don't need down here, leaving the quantity and the amount. And now, since I want them to be shown as totals, I'll set the operation type as sum. Now I also want this to show a word total before the quantity, so I'll go back into my data set and create another label which will say total. And I'll type it in right here. And I also want to make all of these fields bold so they just stand out a bit more. So I'll change the font weight and apply all of 3 text boxes. Now, since this is a document and I want all documents to be separated on separate pages, I'll select one of the sections that's based on sales invoice header, and I'll set the page break parameter to between, so it breaks the page between each and every record. If we go back to the original layout, there are 2 horizontal lines going across the captions and across the totals. So we can add those as well by using the border properties. So if I go to the section for header and set the bottom border thickness to 1 point and set for the footer section, set the top border as 1 point. That should do the trick. So the last bit that we are missing from this layout is the page numbers. So for that, I'll go back to the data set and I'll find my sales invoice header section, and I'll create yet another label which has page and another label which is the system parameter for page number, and also another label which will say of, because we are building a very common paging mechanism which will say page 1 of something, and yet another system parameter for total number of pages. I want to place this paging on the page footer, so I'll select the data item and those captions and system parameters, go back down to my layout, click Add to Layout. It creates another section which I'll place at the very bottom of the screen by using the page report footer section. And now I want to show all of these text boxes in a single text box rather than separate ones, so we don't have too much space between them. So I'll set the concatenate parameter, so they are concatenated into a single one. And I'll make it 5 centimeters wide and align it to the right of the screen. And perhaps even its font should be on the right. And I think that's about it. So, oh, and I also want my pages to be reset on each and every document. So I'll set this property saying reset page number on the section based on sales invoice header. And now I can click on the Build button or F11, and what it does, it exports this whole structure into an XML file, sends it to Simplanova server, where it generates an actual NAV report object and imports it back into your development environment and compiles it automatically. Now, I can even run it from this screen. And that's what it looks like. And as you can see, it only took me 15 minutes to build this type of report. Now, Patras already mentioned that you can also write CL code if you need to. It's available under globals, where you can define global variables and text constants. And also you can build the request page, and this whole designer has most of the capabilities that you had in the classic report, as well as extended with some of the more advanced RDLC features. But you don't have to work through all the workarounds that you would normally have to if you are building an RDLC layout. So I'll just quickly show you that. If we go to NAV and see the report that's been designed, it actually uses some compression mechanisms. So, for instance, the company logo wouldn't be taking up the whole memory of your computer when you are running, because it's not being repeated on the data set as it would be by default. And also, if we see the layout, it builds the tablets with all the complex data grouping and also all the workarounds to get the data up across the report header and report footer using the get data and set data design pattern. Now I'll hand the word back over to Patras.
Thank you, Igna, for presenting us the how to build an invoice report using Simplanova Report Wizard. Now I'd like to give a word to one of our mail customers, Mark Keener from the NBN Group LLC, to describe his experience of using Simplanova Report Wizard in his ongoing upgrade project. Hi, Mark.
For this, and thank you so much for this and for everyone that joined. So I had actually been contacted by Simplanova just by way of a email that went out to many people in the NAV world, and responded to it and got the trial license that Petras had mentioned earlier in the presentation. And I was in the middle of an upgrade project when I did that, and decided to go ahead and see what this was about. I had seen a demo, much like Igna had done. I found it on YouTube and liked what I saw, so I decided to pursue that. And I used this quite a bit, and so I had just made the offer to Petras. I said, if you ever need a reference site, just feel free to have people contact me, and I'll tell them about this. And so when this webinar came up today, I agreed to come on and talk about our experiences. So Petras, to the next slide, please. So a little bit about us. I'm with the NBN Group. Our website's www.nothingbutnav.com. And we're a small company located in the U.S. There's actually 5 of us, and we're spread around the U.S. In different states. Our main services, we do standard NAV consulting, customizations, upgrades. I mean, just what probably many people here on the call do. All of us have been working in NAV since the late 1990s, and we've focused on several different verticals. So my role within the company is I'm a consultant, implementer, developer, I do a little bit of everything. So next slide, please, Petras. So like the rest of you, one of the things that we faced when creating NAV reports before I started using the Simplanova Report Wizard is, we have been using the classic report writer for many, many years. It was very simple, it was fast, and you could do so many things with it. When the RTC came along, that just made things so much more complicated having to use the RDLC. So it was complicated, it was time consuming. Many times for a customer, we would just take a standard report that was inside the system and just modify it. But sometimes you can't just take a standard NAV report and modify it. You've got to start from scratch. And on this particular upgrade that I was doing, I had a lot of custom features built in for manufacturing with a lot of custom tables. And so in their old system, we were taking them from version 2.5 to NAV 2016. I had a lot of reports that needed to be upgraded. And, the standard upgrade tools just did not work as well as we had hoped. So what I did then is, on to the next slide, is went ahead and, like I said, got the demo, the trial license. That's good for, I believe, 5 reports, and by the time I was done with my 3rd report using the trial license, I decided this is something I needed to pursue purchasing, and so I got a hold of Simplanova and purchased an actual license. And so what I found with this is very innovative, as you saw Igna's demonstration, very innovative, simple to use. It's a lot like the page layout. When I had questions on it, and I had a lot of questions, I would email Igna, and I would get answers very, very quickly. And I'm in the Eastern time zone in the United States, and she's over in Europe. But even in spite of the time zone differences, they were very, very quick to answer my questions. One thing that my client likes about this is that it's economical for them. I create the reports. As she pointed out, it creates a standard NAV object that gets imported then into the customer's database when I'm done, and so the customer doesn't have to buy another license for any other report writer. So as far as the customer is concerned, it's just done in NAV. And what I found is that after doing this, and I've done probably 15 or 17 reports so far. And at this point, I'm down to, it takes me about the same amount of time in using Simplanova as what I used to be able to do using the old classic report writer. So it's very quick, it's very intuitive, it's just very nice and easy to use, and just saves a lot of time versus creating the RDLC reports from scratch in NAV. So next slide, please, Petrus. So as far as using the report writer, the Simplanova Report Wizard in our daily task, as I said, I've created a lot of reports for this particular upgrade client, as well as a couple other clients right now. I've created very simple reports with just details from a single table and, just a standard list reports. I've also created document reports. I saw somebody had mentioned in their question and answers when Petrus mentioned what are the difficult reports. And so one of the things that I did to create was a bill of lading report, which is essentially a shipping report. And I had built some custom shipping functionality in there that had some extra tables in it, so I couldn't just use a standard report out of NAV. So I actually created a fairly complex report, document report using the report writer. I was able to also create conditional reporting, so I can do detail or summary reports. That's very nice. And then was also, by some of the formatting features that are available in there, was able to create what we refer to as the green bar report, so where you have every other line in the detail is shaded, just to make long landscape type reports easier to read. And I've actually got one of the reports for this customer is on 11 by 17 paper, and so I've got 24 columns of data going across there. So they really like the fact that the green bar feature makes that a lot easier for them to use. So Next slide. So the experience working with Simplanova, as I replied or said earlier, the team responds very quickly and professionally to any of the questions that I had. And when Igna and I would be going back and forth in an email, she was always good with doing a lot of helpful hints on how to create these reports and some of the shortcuts. There's a fairly short learning curve to become proficient with this. As I said, after about 3 reports, I was sold on the product, and so it was great. And just now, it just saves me so much more time as I've gotten more and more proficient with it. So the try before you buy trial license that Petrus mentioned earlier allowed us to create the reports while we were upgrading without having to actually commit to buying. And just that saved me a lot of time just with those few reports before I decided to purchase the license. And the customer appreciates the fact they don't have to buy a license for another product in order to run reports with another layout. So if anybody has any questions about this, feel free to type them in the box, and along with Petrus and Igne, we'll attempt to answer them. So the very last slide, there's my contact information. If anyone wants to reach out and send an email directly to me, I'm happy to try and answer anything that I can. So thank you very much for attending today. And Petrus, thanks for this opportunity to let me share my experiences.
Thank you, Mark, very nice, much for these nice words. We'll now be heading to the question and answer section, and I'd like to thank you, Mark and Digna, for presenting us your experience, and I'd like to note a few, 4 more things before we head on to the question and answer session. So first of all, I'd like to know that while it's being confused, the Simplanova Report Wizard is actually a tool for building new reports, and it's not a converter for classic to RDLC reports. If you are seeking to convert the reports, you would have to then redesign them using this product. Secondly, if there are end users here, you may also test the product only if you have a developer's license. If you would seek to buy this product, we would then have to ask you to go to your partner and purchase the product through partner, because this is a product which is designed for partners. Then partners, if there are any partners, then please reach out to sales@simplanova.com for test licenses. And finally, I assume you would have some questions regarding the pricing. We have different pricing plans for different needs. We have pricing plans per number of reports and also some unlimited options. So please reach out to sales@simplanova.com for the pricing information. Okay, so we'll begin with the questions now, and I'd like to take the first question myself regarding the test license. The question is, what can I do with the Simplanova test licenses? You may, if you reach out to sales@simplanova.com, we would send you a link where you can download the product with a test license, which will allow you creating up to 5 reports with Simplanova Report Wizard. So the test license gives you the ability to create new reports with Simplanova Report Wizard. Okay, thanks for the question. Another question, which is, can this be used to modify existing NAV reports created by Microsoft or other people? Not yet. The answer will be not yet. We are now working on the feature which would allow to import the existing RDLC reports and modify them with Simplanova Report Wizard. As you know, you may modify the reports using Visual Studio if you prefer doing that when you build the reports of Simplanova Report Wizard. However, the functionality which will allow you modifying your existing reports will be available by the end of March, by the end of first quarter.
I think we can have a look at some of the technical questions as well. So one of the questions was, can I do coding inside of the reports? That's right, so you can actually modify the standard report triggers and build your own functions if you need to, as it has been shown during the demo. And another question was, is it possible to use integer virtual tables? Actually, yes, you can do that. As I said, we suppose most of the functions that were available inside of classic reporting designers. And another question was whether multi-language labels are supported. Yes, they are. You can write in the captions in different languages. You can also dynamically change language inside of the report if you need to print multiple language invoices for different customers. And you don't even have to worry about rewriting all your labels into text constants, because Simplanova Report Wizard does that for you if it recognizes that you are dynamically changing the language. Right, another question was whether it's possible to create vertical lines to separate columns. Actually, yes, you can do that by adding the borders on different text boxes, like a border on the left or on the right or both, and that's how you would get vertical lines. Another question was, is it possible to edit static groups in Wizard? As an example, changing the report on new page. Repeat on the new page, sorry. Well, all the groups are built in automatically, and this property is available to you on the Report Wizard. You can check mark the repeat on new page property on any section that you want, and Report Wizard actually builds in even the groups that are needed as workarounds in order for it to work. So the short answer is yes, it is possible. Right, Radia, what can you tell us about the integration process into NAV? Import a FOB and done, or is there more to it? So actually, in order to install the Report Wizard, you need to do a few things. So first of all, as you said, import the FOB file of the report wizard, then go into the setup table and enter your license number, and also the path where your NAV client is installed. And the last thing that you need to do is install the add-in for Report Wizard. So you can use the preview mode to see what the report will look like. Igor asked whether it's possible to group by selected fields with subtotals. Yes, it is possible. You can define group totals and group headers and group footers with totals by adding group fields into headers and footers. It's very simple. Another question was whether it's possible to add graphics or charts. So actually not at the current stage. Charts are not supported yet, but we are planning to implement that in the future. Alistair asks, can we set conditions to hide or display a field or label depending on the value of some fields? Yes, you can, and it's pretty simple. I think perhaps it would be better if I could be the presenter so I can show some of these bits and pieces. Right, so if we go to the report wizard, the question was, can I show dynamically hide or show sections or text boxes? So yes, you can, and it is done by setting the visibility property. You can see here, you can bind it to any Boolean field or expression that you can write in the data set. Right, request page. Alexander asks how to create the request page. So if we go to the request page, it's actually the same kind of process that you currently have already. We haven't changed anything in this area. We just build a variable which you want to show on the request page. That's it. And if I was to rebuild this again, here it is. Please write to the Q&A section if you have more questions. Yes. So Nazar asks if our solution uses custom developed .NET components. It actually does, but all of them are based on Simplanova servers. So whenever you are clicking on the build button, this whole report layout is being sent to Simplanova servers, where the actual magic happens and the actual NAV report object is generated, and then it's just sent back behind the scenes without you having to do anything, and automatically imported into your database and compiled. The other component is the add-on, and actually partially .NET, partially JavaScript-based component. But what Microsoft prefers as the standard approach to build add-ons anyway. While we wait for more questions, I can show you the CL code editor. So it's actually also based on an add-on. So you have the list of triggers that you can write into. And if I go, for instance, on pre-report, I can write something like message my report and save it. And now if I rebuild it, and run it, the message pops up. Jason, I'm a bit confused. I can't seem to see all the questions, I think. Am I doing something wrong?
Well, I guess I'm not sure. So I see several that have come in the last 10 minutes or so. Who submitted the last question that you see? Was it Nazar?
And the last one was from Nazar, if I look at the overall list. But I'm seeing notifications at the top of my screen, but I can't see those questions.
Those could be coming in as chat.
There's also the chat on the top that you can press. There are some questions.
Oh,
For
right.
example,
Yeah.
has the save as PDF functionality?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yes, so save as PDF is part of the standard, maybe, so I don't think it changes because it's standard NAV report. See, you can print a PDF if you need to. And Sveta asked also whether report can be multi-language, so I can show you that if we go to any of the labels that I used. Back to the dataset.
And sorry to jump in here, but if everyone could just enter their questions into the Q&A, it'll make it much easier to manage that list. Thank you.
I can type in any language that I need to. If I look up the customer label, it will show me all the captions. Right, Maita Gallardo asked, a lot of my customers ask me to make invoices with the vertical lines to separate columns, and whether it's possible to do it on this solution. So I could probably show you that by adding left borders on each of the text boxes. to separate them. Is that what you're looking for? Right, Kimo asks, is it possible to add data like barcodes which relies on .NET components? So I think the answer is yes, but at the moment you can't add .NET variables in a very pleasant way. So I would suggest using a code unit to trigger these functions, but the answer is yes, you can do that. Or you can, of course, always change the font to the barcode font and use the standard approach. That's pretty common, but you can use that as well. Ivica asks whether we can show the green box option. So I'm afraid not, because Mark has that, so you can probably get in touch with Mark. So maybe he could show you a screenshot of the report.
Yeah, if somebody wants to email me, they're more than welcome to. Again, the address is mkeener, K-E-E-N-E-R, at nothingbutnav.com. But essentially what I did for the green bar was in the data set, I created a variable called green bar, and it was just an integer, and I set it to 0 or 1, and so every other row would come out in the data set with either a 0 or 1. And then on the body lines in the layout wizard, I put in a format command that said if it's the green bar value is 0, then the background is white, and if the green bar is 1, then to make the background like a light gray or a light blue, you can choose your own color. So it's very pretty straightforward to do.
Right, Fiat asked whether it's possible to show different page header on second page, for example. I think you can do that by overlaying two different, well, you could actually use two groups to put these elements together and place copies of the sections of different layouts for the second page, and write a visibility expression. So what would that look like? It would be something like starting with an equality sign, and I have my page number already. I would only show a section on the first page and the other section on the second page. Let me quickly have a look. My page number. equals 2. Let me try and see if this will work. I think I need a placeholder, but you get the idea. You can dynamically hide one section on the first page and show the other on the rest of the pages. Might ask whether it's possible to show vertical lines until the bottom of the report. So actually, at the moment, it is not possible, and I'm not quite sure what the solution is for the standard RDLC reports. We are planning to add the possibility to have watermarks under the report, so you could import a pre-printed layout. Maybe these kind of lines could be drawn in there as well. Right, so just asks whether it's possible to have something like trans headers and trans footers. So yes, it is possible, but it's a bit tricky to apply because you have to follow some of the more complicated designs to do that. But for trans footers, it's fairly easy. You just instead of sum in the operation type, you just use a standard footer section, and instead of sum, you would use running value sum. That should show you the intermediate subtotals. With regards to vertical lines, thank you first of all for pointing out this issue. So we will definitely have this on our list of features to implement in the near future. This layout actually allows adding lines if you need to cross lines over something, but doesn't allow adding them from the very top to the very bottom of the page. It's not at the moment. Yes, so another question was that the client could want subtotals on the first page and the rest of the amounts on the last page. So I think it is possible to deal with using dynamic visibility expressions and also using the running value, and perhaps, well, you also have partial access to the Visual Basic coding, because you can write visibility expressions in Visual Basic if you need to. But it's possible in RDLC, then it must be possible in the Report Wizard as well.
Igne, are you looking at other questions, or should we begin wrapping up?
I think we can start wrapping it up because I can't see any more questions at the moment.
And if we did miss any, we'll have a list of those questions captured, and the Simplanova team can certainly follow up with anyone who had anything that didn't get answered fully here.
Yes, thank you everyone for having this today. If you do have more questions, please write to sales@simplanova.com. This webinar recording will be available for you, and you will receive an email from msdynamicsworld.com with the link to the recording.
That's right, and well, I think we will end it there. So, Petros, Igne, and Mark, thank you all so much for presenting to our audience today. And thank you to the audience as well for so many great questions. We will end it there,
Thanks.
and we look forward to being in touch soon with follow-up information. So have a great day, everybody.
Have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.